The night should have ended quietly, the way exhaustion hopes it will, but fate had other plans. The nurse peeled off her gloves, scrubbed her hands raw under fluorescent lights, and leaned into the counter as if the building itself might hold her up. 12 hours had stretched into 14, alarms had screamed and then gone silent, and the halls of the hospital in coastal Virginia hummed with that strange after-midnight calm that only comes after survival has been earned. She signed the last chart, shouldered her worn bag, and took one step toward the exit when the air changed, heavy and deliberate, as if something important had just crossed an invisible line. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in quiet heroes who never expect recognition, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this live because people like you believe they matter. Her name was Hannah Brooks, and she had learned a long time ago how to disappear inside work. She was a nurse by trade and by temperament, steady hands hiding a heart that felt everything too deeply. She had grown up in Ohio with a Bible on the nightstand and a father who taught her to pray before exams and bad weather. Life had bent her plans early. Student loans piled up, her mother's illness hollowed out savings, and a marriage she thought would last forever dissolved into paperwork and silence. So Hannah learned to stay late, to volunteer for the hardest assignments, to be the calm presence in rooms where panic tried to take over. Tonight was no different. A car crash victim named Michael had arrived bleeding and broken. A teenage boy named Caleb had coded twice before coming back with a breath that sounded like a miracle, and an older man named Thomas had gripped her sleeve with the fear of someone who had seen too much war and not enough peace. She carried their stories with her now, tucked into the ache behind her eyes. As she walked down the corridor, the security guard Ruth gave her a tired nod. Outside, the wind off the Atlantic carried salt and the distant wail of sirens. Hannah paused by the glass doors, fishing for her keys, thinking of the drive home and the small apartment that waited with its quiet and its bills. That was when the doors opened again behind her, not with urgency, but with purpose. Footsteps followed, measured and sure. She turned, expecting another late admission or a lost visitor, and instead found herself facing a group of men whose posture alone told a story. They wore civilian clothes that could not hide the discipline underneath, eyes scanning without appearing to, shoulders squared like they had been trained that way since youth. The hospital staff nearby slowed, sensing something unusual, something that did not belong to the routine of beeping monitors and rolling carts. Hannah felt suddenly exposed, aware of the dark circles under her eyes, the crease in her scrubs, the way fatigue made her feel smaller. One of the men stepped forward, and in his presence the hallway seemed to straighten. He looked at her with a seriousness that was not cold but respectful, as if he were standing before someone who had already proven herself. Without raising his voice, without ceremony, the group acknowledged her with a form of address she had not heard in years. They addressed her as ma'am. The word landed like a bell struck in a quiet room, ringing through memory and muscle alike. Staff members glanced at one another, confused. Hannah's breath caught not from fear but from recognition. Years earlier, before the loans and the marriage and the long nights, Hannah had worn a different uniform. She had served as a Navy corpsman, stationed stateside and overseas, tending to broken bodies and shaken spirits with the same steadiness she carried now. She had learned to move under pressure, to prioritize life when seconds mattered, to lead without raising her voice. She had left the service quietly, carrying the weight of memories she did not share, choosing a hospital because healing felt like the only language she still spoke fluently. She never mentioned it, she never needed thanks. But tonight, the past stepped forward. The men had come because of Michael, the crash victim whose chart she had closed minutes earlier. He was not just any patient. He was a brother, a teammate, a man who had once dragged another man out of fire. His injuries were severe, and the prognosis had been uncertain. When word reached his unit that a nurse had stayed past her shift, had advocated through layers of bureaucracy, had caught a subtle sign others missed and pushed for a scan that saved his life, they had come. Not to make a scene, not to ask for favors. They came to stand, to acknowledge, to honor. In their world, respect is currency, and it is never spent lightly. Hannah felt the walls she kept around herself soften. She thought of the nights she went home wondering if any of it mattered, if the quiet sacrifices were seen. She thought of her mother's hands folded in prayer, of sermons about servants and seeds planted in unseen soil. The men nodded, gratitude clear in their faces, and the weight of their presence was not heavy anymore. It was lifting. Hospital administrators would later whisper about protocol and wonder how they missed it, but in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the recognition of character, offered without spectacle. The group lingered only briefly. They moved the way storms do when they pass through, leaving the air cleaner. As they turned to go, Hannah felt something shift inside her, a loosening she had not known she needed. She realized that the hardest part of her work had never been the blood or the hours. It had been the loneliness of carrying responsibility without acknowledgement. Tonight did not change her past or erase her struggles, but it stitched something closed that had been open for a long time. Near the end of the hall, she watched them disappear through the doors, their silhouettes swallowed by night. She exhaled, shoulders dropping, and for the first time in months, she smiled without forcing it. Outside, the wind felt gentler. Her phone buzzed with a message from her sister Rebecca, asking if she was okay. Hannah typed back a simple yes, because sometimes that is all the world needs to know. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that quiet goodness still echoes in loud places, please take a moment to engage with this video. Your support helps these stories reach others who might need them tonight. Just before the ending, here's a special request. Comment the word faith if you believe small acts of care can change lives. Hannah drove home under a sky clearing toward dawn, the road empty and open. Tomorrow would bring another shift, another set of challenges, another chance to serve without applause. But she would carry this night with her, a reminder that integrity is noticed, that service leaves fingerprints, and that sometimes, just when you think your work is finished, the world pauses to say it saw you all along.